Okay, let's just say it out loud. If there's one thing in the business world that gets a universal collective groan, it's the annual performance review, right? That time of year with all the awkward conversations, the confusing spreadsheets, and oh my gosh, the forms, so many forms. But what if I told you we've been looking at this whole thing completely wrong? What if this process we all dread could actually be the single most powerful tool for growth we have?
Let's start with a number that really tells the whole story. A recent study found that only 3 in 10 employees, just 3, believe their company's performance review system actually helps them get better at their job. That means for 70% of people, the whole thing feels like a complete waste of time. There's a huge gap between what these systems are supposed to do and what they're actually doing.
And this isn't just about employees feeling frustrated. Let me introduce you to Sally. She's a sales manager, and this is her reality. From the other side of the desk, it often feels like just another bureaucratic chore, a box-ticking exercise that HR makes her do, getting in the way of her real work.
So here's our game plan. First, we're going to dig into why everyone shares this pain. Then, we'll uncover a crucial case of mistaken identity, the massive difference between appraisal and management. After that, we'll look at the incredible benefits of doing it right, lay out the blueprint for an ideal system, and finally, show how we can turn this hated chore into a real catalyst for success.
All right, let's get right into it and really explore that shared pain point. Why is this experience so universally, awful? Sally's story is the perfect example of what's going wrong.
So let's break down Sally's world. It's the end of the year, she's totally swamped, and boom, an email from HR. Performance reviews are due. Problem is, she doesn't really have visibility into what her team does day to day. She just has sales numbers, and she knows those depend more on the territory than on the person. And to make it all worse, the ratings she gives don't even impact pay. That's based on seniority. So what does she do? She gives everyone top marks, spends maybe 20 minutes on it, and gets back to her real job. Does that sound at all familiar? It's this cycle of pointlessness that so many of us are trapped in.
You know, an experience like that makes it really easy to just throw your hands up and say the whole idea is broken. But is that really true? Is the concept of trying to measure and discuss and improve how we work, is that inherently flawed? Or could it be that what Sally is doing and what most companies are doing isn't actually performance management at all?
And this, right here, brings us to the absolute heart of the matter, a huge case of mistaken identity. See, we've been using the wrong name for the thing we hate. We call it performance management, but what we're really talking about is something much, much smaller and a lot less useful.
So first, let's get our terms straight. Real performance management is defined as a continuous process. It's about identifying, measuring, and developing performance. And this is the key part, aligning all of that with the big picture goals of the organization. The words to remember here are continuous, developing, and aligning. This is not a once-a-year event.
This chart lays it out perfectly. On the left, you have performance appraisal. That's Sally's world. It's a once-a-year, backward-looking thing that just slaps a grade on past performance and is seen as an HR task. But on the right, that's performance management. It's a completely different animal. It's an ongoing, never-ending cycle. It's focused on the future and development, not just the past. It includes goal setting, coaching, feedback, the whole shebang. And critically, it's owned by managers and employees themselves. So here it is, the big reveal. We don't hate performance management. We hate performance appraisal. I mean, look at this. This is the process we all know and, don't love. A form comes from HR. A manager fills it out as fast as possible, and then everybody just gets back to their real job. It's a dead end. It's a task to check off a list, not a process to actually engage with.
Now compare that to a better way. This is the kind of cycle a company like Merrill Lynch uses. It starts in January with managers and employees setting goals together. Then there's a mid-year check-in. The year-end review isn't just one person's opinion, it pulls in feedback from lots of sources. And from that, they build a personal development plan for the future, backed up by ongoing coaching. See the difference? It's not a straight line, it's a continuous loop. It's a conversation.
Okay, so if we make this big shift from a bureaucratic appraisal to a real management cycle, what's in it for us? What are the superpowers we unlock? Well, the benefits are huge, and they really do affect every single level of a company.
For employees, this is an absolute game changer. Imagine having total clarity on what's expected of you. Not just the results, but the behaviors to get there. It actually increases self-esteem because you're getting regular feedback and coaching, not just some grade once a year. You truly understand your strengths and get real help working on your weaknesses. And for managers like Sally, this completely transforms their job. Instead of a 20-minute form-filling nightmare, they are actively building a more motivated, more competent team. They get real insight into their people and can fairly tell the difference between good and poor performers, which means they can give the right support to the right people. It turns them into a coach, not just a judge. And for the organization as a whole, the strategic payoff is enormous. It makes sure that every single person's goals are directly tied to the company's biggest objectives. It creates a documented, fair process, which gives you better protection from lawsuits. And when the company needs to change direction, the performance management system is the engine that actually drives that change. This quote from the former CEO of Avon just nails it. A really good performance management system is how you connect what you reward people for with what you actually need them to do to hit the company's goals. It's as simple and as powerful as that. All right, so we're sold on the benefits, but what does a great system actually look like in practice? Because, execution is everything. So let's look at the blueprint for an ideal performance management system. First, and this is non-negotiable, it has to have strategic congruence. Now, that's a fancy term, but all it means is that an individual's goals must directly connect to their team's goals, which have to connect to the organization's overall strategy. You need everyone rowing in the same direction. Second, it needs contextual congruence. In other words, the system has to fit the environment. It needs to be compatible with your company's unique culture. You can't just take a system built for a flat, creative startup and drop it into a rigid, old-school company and expect it to work. It also has to fit the broader national culture you're operating in. Here's a great example. In the United States, performance systems are often really focused on results, the what. Did you hit your number? But in other cultures, like in Japan, there's often just as much emphasis on the behavior, the how. How did you work with the team? Did you live the company values? A system that only looks at the what would probably fail in that context. An ideal system is also thorough. This means it has to cover everyone, from the frontline staff all the way to the executive suite. It needs to evaluate all the major parts of a job, not just the stuff that's easy to measure. And it has to look at performance over the entire year, not just the last month before the review. And it absolutely, positively has to be reliable. This just means it's consistent. If two different managers were to rate the same employee's performance, their rating should be pretty much the same. And that doesn't happen by magic. It takes clear standards and really good training for the people who are doing the rating. And beyond those big four, a great system has to be built on a foundation of trust. It's got to be meaningful, where the standards are relevant and the results are actually used for important decisions. It has to be specific, with clear guidance for everyone. It needs to be seen as fair, both in the process and the outcome. It should be totally open, with no secret criteria. And finally, because humans are involved and mistakes happen, it has to be correctable, with some kind of appeals process to handle errors.
So we've gone on this whole journey. We started by understanding why we all hate the annual review, and now we see how a real performance management system can be this incredible driver of success for literally everyone involved. When you boil it all down, this is the fundamental shift in mindset that we need. We have to stop thinking of this as a tool for judgment and start seeing it for what it can be, a tool for development. Because the goal isn't just to rate performance, it's to build it. And that leaves us with one final question to think about. I want you to consider your own workplace. Think about the system you have right now. Is it just another bureaucratic burden like Sally's, something you just have to get through once a year? Or is it a genuine, ongoing catalyst for growth, for you, for your manager, and for the whole organization? Because the answer to that question could change everything.